Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. It's Kaylee here. Yeesh, I got a lot of private messages about some of the content that I put out a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to come in here. I thought it would be helpful to address and provide some context here regarding my perspective about visibility, about showcasing expertise, and really stepping into your leadership voice. I knew this was something on everyone's mind, but I didn't really realize the relevance of this magnitude right now. But I'm excited. So I want to talk today in episode 296 about the identity shift that I believe every high-level woman is going to need to make in 2026. So I'll share with you a little bit of context. So at the end of October, a couple months ago, I hosted a retreat. So essentially, I put on a once-a-year leadership retreat with some of our more senior Pop Leadership Academy members. And this is a highly anticipated occasion for all of us, truly. It's a much needed year-end escape in advance of the holiday shenanigans to step away from the day-to-day, to do some strategic thinking, business planning, and personal development work to really reset and recharge for the coming year. And I always create brand new curriculum for these retreats. And this year, the theme was overcoming the fear of visibility. I chose this topic for the exact reason that I recorded episode 294, The Future of Aesthetics. If you didn't catch that episode, you may head back for a listen, but essentially the goal was to address some of the challenges that women share with me about the conflict they feel between the need to stay relevant and visible in aesthetics and to also put their head down and build their business without distractions. And so this really was an invitation to step out of the noise, to return to substance and build a life-first aesthetic business rooted in mastery, integrity, and strategy so you can scale and lead with conviction in a world that's truly obsessed with the spotlight. See, the irony about being visible is that it's very much an inside job. We think about it being louder and more present on stages, but it's really about building your confidence to communicate with conviction the unique perspective or philosophy you have, even when it's not well accepted by the industry masses. This week, I thought I would share a bit about my journey and what brought me to the place today of making thought leadership work an anchor tenet inside of our Pop Leadership Academy syllabus. So I wanted to revisit a topic I podcasted about more than 260 episodes ago because, back when this show was still finding its legs, and frankly, so was I recorded an episode, number 30, in fact, that was called Finding My Voice. And I thought that was so interesting because as I was sort of reeling back through episodes and thinking about how full circle this conversation is with you, at that time, I felt like it was the most honest description of the work that I had been doing behind the scenes. I was really feeling frustrated around what felt like the status quo in our industry. And I was doing this internal work to figure out how to articulate a message that would soon, or at some point, I guess, really become my own intellectual property. And the irony is that here we are 5 years later. I'm recording episode number 296. So I wanted to take another pass at this message, but again, from the perspective of a very grounded woman who has not only found her voice, but has built an entire body of thought leadership, a multi-million-dollar company, God willing, and a community of female founders who've been evolving right alongside of me. So I want to talk about what I've learned about what it takes to become a woman whose voice carries weight in a noisy, crowded, hyper-performative industry. Because here's the truth, a lot of women want the stage, but they haven't yet built the message that deserves the microphone. And that's not a dig on anybody. It's really an invitation because we're living in a time when anyone can go viral. Everyone can call themselves a KOL. Everyone's got an Instagram, a syringe, coaching business, and the market is noisier, faster, and more saturated than it's ever been. In fact, a client recently said to me, every time I scroll my feed, I see the same cycle play out. The top 100 injectors, the distinguished women in aesthetics, the top 50, this or that. And it just gives me the ick. I mean, I get it. Honestly, it's fascinating, not because of the awards themselves, but because of how people respond to them. It's like watching a live social experiment on worthiness and validation. There's no knock on anyone who's recognized, but if you found yourself wondering why you weren't on that list, I want to offer a very different perspective. Maybe it's because you're playing an entirely different game, a game of original thinking. Back in that episode 30, I shared a story that will help put this into perspective. When I was in college, I was on the soccer team and I was asked by our university's athletic department to write a monthly article for the school newspaper about what was happening behind the scenes. They thought it would give a little personality to the team. I think there were different teams and assigned writers on different teams in our athletic department. And they wanted to showcase more about the players as people, what we were all up to, what the team was doing pregame. They wanted a really more authentic perspective. So I was totally up for the challenge. I love writing. I loved that they wanted more authenticity, so I jumped on it. Well, it just so happened that as I sat down to write my first article, I was pretty highly emotional. See, I was a defender, and my job on the field was to prevent the other team from scoring. Offense, on the other hand, was responsible for scoring goals for our team. Okay, athletics 101, right? And we were on a 3-game tying streak, which at the time was lending itself to relenting a leading position going into playoffs. So, here I am. Last time I checked, the only way we can win a game is when the offense scores a goal. Yet in our team meeting that specific week, it was our offensive players blaming the defense for not creating opportunities for them to get into scoring position. And so here I am, just bottled up, getting ready to write my first article, finally submitted it to the athletic department titled Pointing the Finger. Well, that was my first and last time writing an article. I was asked not to write another one because apparently I was a little too authentic. I wrote about how the team lost that week, not because we couldn't connect on the field. We lost because we couldn't connect off the field. We had all fallen into blaming mode, accusing everyone but our own selves for not capitalizing on set play opportunities to score and win. We were too busy pointing the finger. I, for one, thought this was an invaluable lesson to share. I thought exposing our vulnerabilities and human flaws would highlight our authenticity, and it would share a bigger story and a bigger, I think, lesson for people. But that wasn't exactly what the big boss had in mind, and so that was that. But that wasn't the last time I would be asked to mute my opinion or filter my delivery of a subject. Several times in corporate positions, I was asked to speak, but then say it this way instead. I think I had conditioned myself to water down my message to meet the status quo of the majority in the room. I had my speaker abstracts gently adjusted, my leadership talks shifted into top 10 lists, podcasts I even guested on never published because it exposed a conversation that hosts weren't prepared to have. And now I realize, looking back, being asked to tame my message was really the biggest gift I could have received. It became the catalyst for the incredible alt experience. And it has been the through line of work we do at KLC to empower women to own their fullest potential. And it's exactly the reason you and I are having this conversation today on the Fierce Factor podcast. I listened to a really powerful interview with Simon Sinek recently, and he was asked why he thought he was one of the most sought after public speakers in the world. And his answer was profound. He said, most people set the goal to be a public speaker, to command an audience, to magnetize people to follow them. Most people don't have a compelling message to share. Their goal is just to influence others. So he said what makes him different is his ambition to serve the other people in the room. Of course, he started with a unique message to share, and that drew people to him. But his goal was always to give, not receive. And if I'm honest with myself, I was that girl. I wanted to be seen as a leader. I wanted to stand on the stage. I wanted to be visible. And so I was willing to bend and morph into whatever a conference organizer needed of me in order to do that. So when I recorded that early episode 30 in 2020, I thought finding my voice was about confidence. And now I know I actually had it backwards. It's about conviction. It's about conviction to speak up for what we believe in. The confidence, okay, could get us on stage, but conviction builds the damn stage. And every woman who comes into my world, whether she's a new business owner, a multi-location CEO, or a rising thought leader, she tells me some version of the same dream. I want to be a leader. I want to influence others. I want to educate. I want to train. I want people to look up to me. I want to be known. I want to be respected. I want to be on panels, stages, and rooms where influence is created, even privately. And it's so beautiful. But here's what needs to be said about that. You can't build influence on borrowed ideas. Do you wonder why you're bored out of your mind seeing the same presentations at industry conferences? Too many people want the stage before they've done the work of building the message. They want a personal brand, but they haven't yet articulated and battle tested their own unique philosophy. They want to be a thought leader, but they're not stewarding their own thoughts. Thought leadership is about having original thought. That girl in 2020 knew she had something to say, but she needed to find her original voice. And for me now, it's come from tens of thousands of hours of coaching, hundreds of hours of podcasting, on top of umpteen hours of phone calls, Zoom meetings, video live streams, writing, training module creation, social media posts, and free unpaid speaking gigs to listen to myself untangle the thoughts that had been scrambled in my head, but probably felt like frustration. When I look back at my own evolution, I realized something powerful. My voice wasn't discovered, it was developed through saying the wrong thing, through saying the right thing too timidly, through saying the true thing too boldly, through saying the thing no one else was willing to say. And slowly, the clarity emerged. Today, my message is undeniable for the woman who aligns. When I started my company, I didn't want to just build a consulting business. I wanted to rewrite the rules for how women led in aesthetics and wellness. And for too long, women have been told they can have it all, but only if they do it all. We've been conditioned to manage the home, raise the family, and somehow still build the empire, quietly carrying the invisible weight of perfectionism while the world applauds our productivity. But goddess, times have changed. Women aren't just running households anymore. We're running companies, driving innovation, and shaping culture. We're building movements and legacies, not just, as my husband would say, a jobby or a side hustle. And yet we're still trying to scale inside of systems that were never designed for us. That's why I created the Life First business model. It's a framework that redefines what sustainable success looks like for the modern female founder. It's not about choosing between ambition or peace. It's about building a business that honors both. Because the world doesn't need more burned out, overextended women trying to prove their worth. It needs calm, clear, confident CEOs leading with both strategy and purpose. My philosophy blends the structure of corporate strategy, the things I learned in business school, with the ultimate gift of feminine leadership, where data still cares about our intuition and growth doesn't come at the cost of our well-being. I teach women to build from the inside out, to design strategy around their values, to create companies that fund and fuel their own freedom, not drain it. Because growth isn't really about doing more, it's about doing what matters most and doing that even better. I help women shift from operator to architect, from the one keeping the wheels turning to the visionary designing the machine. See, for me, this isn't just a coaching model, it's a movement, and it's one that's been born from the truth that the future of business is values driven. Because at its core, a Life First business is a brand that stands for something. That's why we all want visibility. We're creating a living expression of our values, our beliefs, and the unique way that we move through the world as female founders. But if you haven't done the deep inner work to uncover what you truly stand for, your brand will always feel unstable, like it's built on quicksand, because then you're going to find yourself mimicking, chasing trends, constantly rebranding to stay relevant, when what your audience really craves is conviction, is you, the bold you. And this lack of perspective looks like building a house without laying the foundation. It's much less sexy to pour concrete than it is to hang chandeliers. I get it. Yet I see this happen over and over and over again. If you're trying to build a brand that's competitionless, you don't need a bigger stage. You need a better standpoint. You need a philosophy, a worldview, a point of view that is distinctly yours. Here's what I've learned 266 episodes later about finding my voice. Finding my voice was the beginning. If you want to become a woman whose presence is felt, whose words matter, and whose influence outlives the fleeting trends, start by finding the courage to stop filtering yourself, with the discipline to build your own unique disruptive philosophy, and with the conviction that your voice is not just a tool for communication, it's the foundation of your legacy. And as we move into 2026, this is the real work for the women in the KLC community. It's the next chapter of leadership that goes far beyond visibility, speaking gigs, or industry fame. It's about building a life-first business. It's the shift from carrying the entire strategic load to architecting a business that thinks, moves, and executes with excellence, with or without you. Most high-performing women I coach are operating at a level where their vision is scaling faster than the structure underneath it. Their ideas are brilliant, ambition is there, but their team is still leaning on their brain as the central hub for innovation, direction, and decision-making. And that creates a bottleneck. You feeling triggered? Not because the leader isn't capable, but because she's too capable. The next evolution is moving from this heroic leadership where you hold everything together through sheer force and brilliance into structured leadership where clarity, ownership, and systems create a culture that drives outcomes independently. And this is the identity shift of 2026, becoming the woman who stops being the operating system and finally becomes the architect, the leader with the space, the structure, and the self-trust to think long-term, to lead with conviction, and to let her team grow into the greatness she hired them for. I can say with complete confidence that after hundreds of hours behind this microphone, I have earned the right to stand as a thought leader in the space of female leadership and life-first business growth. But I didn't always feel that way. It took years of building, sometimes in silence, sometimes in doubt, very often in loneliness, to finally find alignment between this growth and also groundedness, right? This ambition and authenticity. And along the way, I realized something really powerful. It's not that women in aesthetics and wellness lack vision. It's that most have never been given the structure to bring that vision to life. Because the women I work with, I'm going to tell you, are nothing short of extraordinary. They're the heartbeat of this industry. Clinicians turned CEOs, mothers turned empire builders, women building movements. They lead teams, they change lives, and they really redefine what leadership looks like. And yet, even the most accomplished among them still find themselves whispering, how do I keep growing without losing myself in the process? That question, that tension is exactly what inspired me to create something entirely new. Because what we uncovered at our Academy retreat wasn't actually about visibility at all. It was about identity. The women in that room weren't afraid of being seen. They were afraid of being seen as they truly are. Powerful, opinionated, qualified leaders with a perspective that might challenge the status quo. And that's the exact identity shift every high-level woman must make in 2026. Not how do I show up more, but how do I show up as the woman I actually am? The woman who doesn't dilute her message to make other people feel comfortable. The woman who doesn't contort herself to fit an industry mold. The woman who doesn't wait for permission to take up space. And what I know is that visibility, it requires you to trust yourselves, to stand up unapologetically in your perspective. That's why I'm so excited to share that for the first time ever, we are launching Confidence to Scale live in person. It is a recalibration of our always sold out coaching program, CTS, Confidence to Scale. This January 9th and 10th, we'll be launching a 90-day coaching incubator designed for high-performing female founders who are ready to grow differently, stronger, clearer, calmer, with conviction. This is a high-touch leadership experience that blends strategy, accountability, and execution, the trifecta that actually moves your business forward. So we'll begin together January 9th and 10th in Manhattan Beach for an intimate 2-day immersive event, surrounded by salty ocean air, deep conversation, and women who think like you do. You'll step away from the noise and into the clarity you're craving. Together, we'll design your 2026 growth plan line by line, defining the priorities, the systems, and the structures that will carry you through the next level of scale. Then, over the following 90 days, you'll be guided personally with customized private coaching, live strategic workshops, and direct accountability that ensures you're not just planning differently, you're executing differently. This CTS program has been the single most sought after coaching program we've ever created at KLC. It's built on the foundations that build businesses that stand alone, competitionless, that support, uplift, and fuel its founder, and that sets leaders up to scale sustainably. Women who have certified in this program tell us things like, I've fallen back in love with my business. I finally know I'm not alone. I believe in myself again. I'm finally ready to work smarter, not harder, to set boundaries and to go and do the damn thing. Imagine this, 90 days from now, you wake up knowing exactly where to focus your time and energy. Your team is aligned, your calendar reflects your priorities, and your business finally feels like it's working for you. You're no longer the operator doing all the work, putting out fires, creating all the marketing, paying the bills, wondering if you're staying visible enough. You're the architect building something that lasts. You're leading with structure, with systems, and with unshakable confidence. And that's what we're building together inside of Confidence to Scale Live. The future of your business needs a framework that honors your vision and a support system that helps you bring it to life. So if you're ready to lead differently, to scale with strategy, confidence, and calm, I want to personally invite you to join us, because this isn't just about growing your business. It's about becoming the kind of woman who can hold the success that she's been working toward all along. So let's set that intention together. It's time to stop carrying the weight of growth alone and start leading with the systems and the confidence and the support that your next level demands. If you're ready to step into your next level of leadership, let's jump on a call and make sure this is the right fit for you. You can learn more about the program and find a link to book a call at klcconsultants.com/CTS. Again, that's klcconsultants.com/CTS. Thank you for joining me today, Goddess, and thank you for being a part of this important movement in our industry. Please share this with someone you respect, and I will chat with you same place, same time next week. Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight, because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working across the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, Goddess.